Here we go. Okay, welcome to the launch event for Murder in Chianti, which is Camilla Trinchieri's new book, published with Soho Press this August. We at Soho Press are absolutely overjoyed to have you here tonight to celebrate with us. We also are really pleased to have a bookseller partner, I Am Books, which is the Italian-American bookstore in Boston, to be our selling partner for the evening. So if you're looking for your first edition hardcover of Murder in Chianti, please do check out the link for the product link that my colleague has put into the chat box, which we will resurface throughout the event. So with us tonight, we have the woman of the hour, Camilla Quinchieri, who is half Italian, so a gal after my own heart there, but a graduate of Barnard College and the Columbia MFA program. She is the author of 11, but soon to be 12 books and numerous short stories, which have been widely anthologized. She has led a multinational, multicultural, multi-talented life, which to me is straight up out of a really good book. She had an international childhood with her diplomat Italian father and her American mother, a movie career as a dubbing producer and director in Rome, where she worked with such luminaries as Fellini and many, many others. And then, after becoming an American citizen in 1980, an award-winning writing career that has spanned multiple genres. So we at Soho are very privileged to have published her 2007 novel, The Price of Silence. And we're really, really thrilled that she's returned to us and to Soho Crime to publish Murder in Chianti, which features an ex-NYPD homicide detective named Nico Doyle. And I actually think that the secret is already out and that I'm allowed to say here, I hope, Camilla, that there's actually a second book coming next year.
It's a series, yes.
It is. So you all have that to look forward to. Equally delightful. And to help us introduce Murder in Chianti tonight, we have the fabulous S.J. Rosen, who is a long-standing friend of Soho, an all-around awesome lady, although I never want to have to go up against her on the basketball court because that's just deadly. But S.J. is the author of 16 books, the most recent of which is Paper Sun, and I got to watch her win the very coveted Belty Award for crime fiction in North Carolina in February. But I should say that she has, however, won many
everything
awards. I think she's actually won all the awards. So, she's also an architect. So basically a formidable artist across multiple genres here. And she's a native New Yorker, and she has some Italy connections because she teaches in Assisi. So she's just really the perfect conversation partner for Camilla tonight. So without further ado, let me turn the mic over to you, SJ.
I'm here. How's my sound? Is that good? Camilla and I are actually, about half a mile apart in New York, which these days is, might as well be, we might as well
New
be
Zealand.
Like Ruth, right? Yeah. But I read this book and I just loved it. It was so familiar to me, although most of my experience in Italy is in Umbria. Nevertheless,
they're neighbors.
They are
Tuscany
neighbors, and it was
Umbria
just
are neighbors.
I felt right at home there. And I'll talk about the book in a minute, but I wanted to start with Camilla. I met you. You're one of the first people I met when I came into this crime writing thing. I believe at Sisters in Crime. That's
It was my first, yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to know after that long bio of all kinds of exciting things, how you got into crime writing to start out with. I mean, why writing, but specifically why crime writing?
I started out, I had no intention of writing crime. I was an avid mystery fan, but as a reader. But I had the need to write a novel, which is what started me writing about my mother, who was an American, married to an Italian during World War II. She was in Europe, and she was her husband's enemy, and so it was a fascinating. My mother was 2 months after my birth was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic, and therefore I did not grow up with her, but she was always, I just needed to put that on paper, to figure out this woman, and also in a way to memorialize her. So that started me writing. But of course, what did I know about World War II? Because I was born during it. So I did tons of research. And I was working in an advertising agency, and the boss would not give me a raise. So because I needed to go to Czechoslovakia, because this takes the Seeking Alice takes place in Prague mostly. And I couldn't get to Prague for another 6 months. I said, oh, well, let me kill my boss. He won't give me a raise. So I said, and you need to, learn how to write. I mean, what did I know about writing? I wasn't 18 years old at that point. So I killed him in the trouble with a small raise. And I did it as a joke. I wasn't even thinking. And then finally I found a publisher, and the publisher said, it was paperback publisher, and you have to write more. And so I started. In the meantime, I was always working on the other book. And that's how I got into crime. And I had fun. I loved it. You would start, I wouldn't know who the kill. I mean, I always knew who the victim was, but I never knew who killed the victim. And so I began loving to write crime. But I write light crime. I don't write thrillers. I don't write specific violence. I don't like that. I don't want to read it because life is already difficult enough. And so there I was, writing crime and enjoying it. And it's fun. I love it. I just love it.
And speaking of life being difficult enough now, that was a lovely segue. We've all been in quarantine now for 6 months. Has this been a more or a less productive time for you in terms of your writing?
It's been a gift from heaven. I had a second book, Murder in Chianti is the first in a series. And all of a sudden I had no distractions. I had nowhere to go, couldn't see my friends except, on the telephone. I wrote my second book and I loved it. I zeroed in. I couldn't deal with the COVID thing, or COVID. I always say COVID for some reason. And I got my second book finished. And in fact, now at the editors. Fabulous. So to me, it was almost a gift. I mean, I hate saying it because so many people have suffered and died because of it. But for me personally, it kept me home and it kept me in front of the computer. And and while I was doing it, I was having fun.
Fabulous.
So
it's actually been interesting for writers because our days aren't that different except for the lack of distraction. We still get up in the morning and go to the laptop or whatever, but we don't also have to think about, and then there's this and there's this and there's the other.
Yes,
thing.
And you want to go and have lunch with your friend, and
the meeting and
or go to the movies.
Yeah, none of that. Go to the gym. Forget it. You have to stay home and write. So I think there'll be a lot of books that come out
during this period. Yeah, from this period.
Whether they deal with what we're going through is another thing. But the one that I'm working on right now has no reference to the coronavirus, except that every time somebody meets somebody, they either bow or put their hand to their heart. Nobody shakes hands anymore. That's it. Yeah.
But is this a Lydia?
No,
it's a bill. It's a standalone.
No, it's a standalone. I have a bill coming out. We'll talk later about what's coming out, but this is a standalone. Okay. So there you were, having this crime writing career, and this other book writing career, and this career, and all of a sudden you find yourself in Chianti, or else your books find themselves in Chianti. How did that come about? This book.
We took a vacation about 4 years ago, my husband and I, Stuart, and we went from Siena to Florence. The first destination was Siena, and then we were going to go to small villages along the way to end up in Florence. And we went into one village. We had been there before, I think only for dinner, because it has very nice restaurants. And the village is called Panzano. Does not have any cultural, but it has a famous butcher called Dario Cecchini, who put it actually on the map. And there's 3 fabulous restaurants there. And we went there for a week. And all of a sudden, I felt like I was home. I'm from Rome. So Rome has been in the past my home, and I've always felt that way. All of a sudden, I felt there was just something about the place that made me feel I want to retire here. And of course, Stuart wouldn't dream of retiring in a small Tuscan village. He's a New Yorker through and through.
Go Stuart.
And so Stuart's my husband.
Yeah.
And so after the week, I came home and I said, I want to write about this place. I want to invent a village very similar to this one. And I said, but Stuart, I have to go back. I need to stay there a month to get the feel of a small, I've never lived in a small village, so I don't know what that feels like, what it's, so, and he was very nice because he'll go to anything that's Italian, thank God. And so we did go the following September for a month. And that's when I started writing.
But you knew, but it was the as soon as you got there, you knew you wanted to write about it.
No, not instantly. It just, during that week, stayed with me. Actually, I think I got the idea to write about it when I came home because it was with me. I wanted to be there. Mm-hmm. And what better way to be somewhere than to write about it? If you can't actually move there, as you write about it, you bring it to life. And I gave it a different name. It's a different village. I've changed a few things about it, but they'll recognize each other.
You're from Rome, but do you have people from the countryside, from Tuscany or
no? No, I have my Italian translator is Florentine because I'm Italian, but I never went to Italian schools, so I can't write in Italian. And written Italian is very different from spoken Italian. It's full of subclauses and it goes on and on and on. And it's sort of Henry James' way of writing. And so I can't do that. So I have an Italian translator and she's from Florence, but no, I have nothing. My first boyfriend in Italy, wait a minute. First boyfriend in Italy was a Tuscan.
There you go. That's it. So it's deeply imprinted. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So you said when you started writing crime, you didn't know, you always knew who the victim was, but you didn't know the story. You didn't know who the killer was or anything like that. Is that still true?
I wrote my first mystery not knowing what I was doing, actually. And then I've lost SJ, but I hope I get her back. And then someone said, "Oh, but you've got to outline. I mean, okay, you mysteries, you've got to put red herrings, you've got to outline it." So the second mystery, I said, "Oh, is that what I'm supposed to do? Okay, so I'll outline." So I had an 11-page outline, and I started writing, and all of a sudden, I had already written it. I was bored. It didn't make sense to have. The fun thing about writing is to get to the computer, have some sense of what's going on, but not all of it. And all of a sudden discover, let the characters move you, tell you where to go. I never know ahead of time I don't even know my characters until they open their mouths. They're telling me who they are. I'm not forming it. That's how I feel. I do not form it. I don't say, no, you're going to be this way. Nico, you're going to be this way. Salvatore, you're going to be this way. I have no idea. I just bring them in. I give them a description. I think about it and I give them a description of how I see them. And then they open their mouths and they slowly reveal themselves to me. So that whole outline, I chucked it. I chucked the whole plot and started anew and came up with something new. What's the point of doing an outline and having the book written before you've even started? What's the fun of that? To me, it's no fun. To me, it's a discovery. Where's SJ?
Hi. Camilla, I think you need to run that last bit again. You were very excited, but nobody could. You were very Italian, actually, but nobody could.
I was doing the hand business.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you had asked me if any of my characters had surprised me.
Right.
I believe. And I said, no, because I don't have expectations. So I just follow and none of these, no, I have not had any surprises. Maybe that was no. Actually, there was one. I have an old man who's people think in the village. You know, small villages, especially in Italy, very often have one person who's not quite there, has his own whatever. And I have a guy who's called Gogol, and he's called Gogol because he wears an overcoat both in the winter and in the summer. He never takes it off. He says it has his soul on in him in the overcoat. And he quotes Dante. He gets money from tourists because he can quote all sorts of Dante quotes. He knows it by heart. He could do the whole Divine Comedy. And he witnessed something that is very important in the book that I had not planned at all. All of a sudden, there he was, reacting to what he had witnessed. That was a surprise. I had not thought of him as being that important a part of the murder, and all of a sudden, because he witnessed something, he was, and that was a surprise. But I was also saying, that very often, the character says something, and in the morning when I wake up, I usually wake up early, and I have that sort of wonderful time where you don't want to wake up yet, but you're not completely, you're not really asleep. Your brain is working, where all of a sudden, a character will tell me, no, I would never say that. Cut it. You could that's not me. I would not say that.
The
so
characters,
and I always listen to that.
they actually, you have the sense that they're actually speaking to you, as opposed
Yes,
to
absolutely.
as opposed to you waking up and saying, wait, he would never say that.
No, sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's the guy saying, In my mother book, for instance, I wrote 40 pages of the daughter having, this takes place during World War II, because I wanted her to have a relationship with a young German soldier. And, I wrote 40 pages of it, and she actually came to me in the night and said, absolutely not. I would never have a relationship with the Germans. So I dumped the 40 pages. I had to listen. There was obviously, I knew something was wrong. It just didn't work.
Yeah. No, you have to listen when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then they'll sit down in the middle of the floor and refuse to go on.
Does it happen to you?
They don't speak to me, but I do, if
You're not as crazy as I am.
Maybe not, but
you're more grounded.
Barely. But I'll get up and do the dishes, and I'll be thinking, you just know that wouldn't happen. It would be handy if it did happen, and it would be useful for the plot, but it really just isn't going to happen. So go back and take it out. Yeah. I hope to not get to 40 pages usually before that.
That was the only time it happened.
But sometimes you just do. We have questions coming in from the audience, but first, I want to know about the characters in the book. You're writing about a ex-New York City detective, a man, a New Yorker, out of place there. Why did you choose this character? Why a man? And once you're through with that question, I want to know about the dog.
And a wonderful dog. I love that dog. I love writing from a man's point of view. I discovered it when I wrote for Soho Press, The Price of Silence, which was written from various, from women's point of views and from men's point of view. And I wanted to write from a man's point of view to just immerse myself in a man's head. Now, Nico is his name is Nico Doyle, actually Domenico Doyle. He had an Italian mother and an Irish father who disappeared early in his life. And Nico becomes a homicide detective because he used to be, a patrol cop, and a homicide detective, made more money. But he doesn't have the toughness. And he admits it, that he was not particularly a very good homicide detective. And he gets involved with the Italians because he discovers a body, thanks to the dog. Now, Nico, I don't know where I've thought about it. I said, where does Nico come from? Where did I get this man? And I have absolutely no idea where he's not. like anyone I know. He's not like my father. He's not like my husband. He's not, I don't know where he comes from, but I feel very, very close to him. I feel almost protective of him. There's just something about him that I love, that I absolutely love. Now, the problem, I'm sure this happens to you. You fall in love with all your characters. I mean, these people become real. They're part of your life. You feel them, you listen to them. So there isn't I mean, there are a few characters, obviously the bad guys, that I don't feel for. But Nico and Salvatore Perillo, who is the Maresciallo, in that area where in Tuscany, the police don't deal, they don't have the police. The police are in the big cities. In the small countries, country villages, and they have the Carabinieri, which is a paramilitary part of the army. They're the police of the army. And there are lots of Carabinieri jokes because they're considered, the police put them down and give them, awful jokes. Sort of like our Polish jokes. Remember the Polish jokes about how many Poles takes to turn a light bulb, that kind. And they have those for the Carabinieri too.
Yeah, well, the NYPD has those for the FBI. So.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay. So, and they match up, and they're different characters. And I just love the way they mix together. I mean, Salvatore is not from Tuscany. A lot of the Carabinieri are usually from the South. And what are you doing with your hands? Okay.
That's not me, that's Susan.
I saw Susan who was going, boop, 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 boop. Maybe because my hands are all over the place.
She's talking with her hands.
I should sit on them.
No.
I can't. And Perillo's from the South. He's from Naples, of an area that I know very well because I had friends from Naples. And so this mixture of this Neapolitan who finds himself in Tuscany and this man, Nico, who has lost his wife and who was Italian and then, had Italian-American, she had come here. But she wanted to be buried with her parents. And so he brings her back to this small town called Gravigna. And he goes back to the Bronx, but he's lost his job for a good reason that I explain in the book. And he goes back because he has nowhere else to go and he has to find himself. And what I found fascinating about Nico was that he had to find himself. And I don't know if it has any relationship, and now that I'm thinking about it for you, with my having to come back to this country and in a way finding myself. When I came back in 1980. So maybe there's I sort of feel for him because I sort of went through that feeling of having to make a new home for yourself, although I had not lost a spouse. One of the fun things about a series, I think, is that your characters, I'm looking forward to having them grow. I'm looking forward to having them change. Nico needs to adapt to get in, to become Italian in a way, although he's 100%. I mean, he has an Italian mother who called him Domenico. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating to deal with people that you don't know and that you discover by writing about them, by letting them speak to you. Obviously, I'm in control in some way. I mean, I don't have, I'm not saying I have ESP and these ghosts come to me and speak to me, but that's the feeling I have, that it's not me, that I am not in control, that every morning, I don't know what's going to be the next scene. Yes, it's important that I say, okay, this morning he's going to go to the bar and meet with Gogol, because they're good friends, and Gogol will quote some Dante, and then something will happen. But that's all I know to start off. So
and then something will happen, right? I love that.
And something will happen, yeah. The dog.
Okay, now I was going to say, now that brings us to the dog.
Okay,
you don't have a dog.
No, I do not. I did in Italy I had 4 dogs. I am a dog lover, and a passionate, but living in New York, and because I do travel a lot, um, going back to Italy, having a dog is rather impractical. It is also very expensive because if you leave, you have to find kennels. And I remember when I had just had this urge to have a dog, I went and checked with some kennels what it cost to keep a dog overnight. And the cheapest was $85 a night. And I went, you know, and I go for 3 weeks when I go to Italy. I said, that's not going to happen. So I miss it. And, you know, again, I hadn't planned to have a dog in the book, but he had to discover all of a sudden, I'm talking the first chapter, I talk about he hears a gunshot and there are boars in the area because boars love grapes. And the book starts in September when the grapes are beginning to be very edible. And he hears a gunshot and he thinks it's some idiot going after boar. And then, and this was not planned, I swear to you, all of a sudden he hears a dog yelping. And what does he think? Oh my God, the dog is hurt. So he does what I would do, and that's what I would do. He puts on his hiking boots and he runs out to save the dog, but the dog is not hurt at all. The dog leads him to an unpleasant place. And he's a mutt, a little mutt. And I called him One Wag, and people ask me, why did you call him One Wag? You know, he only wags once. He's a very proud little dog. He's not going to go, oh, I love you, please feed me. No, that's him, not him. He has survived on the streets, and he's not about to cater and try to get you to love him. So that's why he wags once. Okay, I'll say hello to you, and that's it.
So they're well suited, Nico and One Way.
Yes. And of course, then Nico starts, you know, slowly falls in love and starts to talk to the dog. In the second book, he talks to the dog. He says, oh my God, I'm talking to the dog. What am I doing? But I would talk to the dog all day long. So
yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
All
No,
right,
One Wag is fun. One Wag is fun. And of course, the Italians can't say one wag. They can't say it. It's very hard. So they call him Rocco, and the dog responds to both names.
Right. It's the obvious solution to One Way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, also the Maresciallo thinks, wait a minute, this guy is an Italian. The dog is an Italian dog. He should be called an Italian name. So it's Rocco.
When Nico starts talking, I'm getting beyond our purview here, but when Nico starts talking to the dog in the second book, does he talk to him in English or in Italian?
No, he talks to him in English.
Oh, see, that's the problem, is because the dog.
Now the thing is, okay, something that I should say about the book is Nico does know Italian because of his wife. Because I didn't want to write the Maresciallo with an accent. You know, he would not know English perfectly. I wasn't going to go through. He becomes a very important character. So I have Nico. So when Nico thinks to himself, he's thinking in English, and I can use English idioms, American idioms. But I have to be careful, and I'm sure I've slipped up somewhere, when he talks to the Maresciallo, that I don't use American ways of saying things, because they're actually speaking in Italian. So it gets, I don't know.
I mean, we'll talk more about that, except that first I want to start taking the questions, because that's an interesting issue. But there is a question here that says, was the butcher in Panzano the inspiration for the man who quotes Dante?
No, not at all.
Okay, so much for that. If you
the butcher, the famous Dario Cecchini is a very imposing, very self-important person who would know. Gogol is this little old wizened man with lots of who you want to just take home and take care of him. Gogol is just a lovely old man.
I'm going to ask another question that came in, but if you have questions, down at the bottom of your screen, you can see the chat function. Type your question into the chat, and it will be passed on to us.
On my screen.
No, not on your screen. But you don't have to ask questions.
Why not?
That would get so good. That's very meta. The next question that came through is, has Italy changed much since you first lived there as a child and after?
Oh my God, yes.
And in what ways? What are the biggest changes you see? It has gone
Uh,
downhill. Okay, so much for that.
Downhill, nasty governments, uh, the soul. It's sort of in a way. Excuse me for being political here, but sort of what's happened here. All of a sudden, you know, they started getting a lot of immigrants from these sad, and all of a sudden racism has come up. Whereas Italy was always white. They didn't have, and now they're having Syrians. They're having a lot of Africans who are coming in, and although some Italians are absolutely wonderful about it, the government has not been wonderful at all. Horrible, 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 horrible government. It's gone to the right. In a nasty way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being right if that's what you believe in, but mistreating, not letting the boats come in, so that they, of immigrants who have been picked up on rubber rafts, and not letting this present government, this awful man, or it was the one before, he just got kicked out, Salvini, wouldn't let the boats. So the boats were wandering with all these people who were hung. Oh, it's just awful. Yes, it's changed a lot.
Okay, well, that's the bad news.
But then you go to a small village and you meet people and they're wonderful.
So Italy has changed in terms of its political situation.
Yes.
The Italians have not.
No, some of the Italians have shown their true colors.
So they probably haven't changed.
Yes. And then there are those who will do whatever they can to help you. That's
okay.
But before, I guess, if we weren't exposed to what we've been exposed to now, so that you didn't know. It may have always been, after all, this is a country that went, Hosanna Mussolini and the fascists. So you don't know, but under stress, some ugly things come out in people. And also some wonderful things come out in people under stress.
Okay, here's another question. I like this one. Italy is a great place for walking and being out in public, observing, seeing people of all sorts. Has that practice influenced your writing?
Well, I'm Italian, so I don't think of it that way. I don't think of it that way. What has influenced my writing was the fact that I have a diplomat father, and every 4 years we changed countries, language, often, schools, friends. So what happens when you go to a new place? You sit on the edge of the carpet and you look in and you see, what is this place like? How am I going to fit in? What do I do? And I think that's what got me thinking. I was writing it when I came here when I was 12 the first time. I started writing all sorts of short stories, very depressing short stories, but there they were, because it was a way of grounding myself in a place. And so that's what influenced my writing was my life. Also, the fact that I, for many years, for 17 years, dubbed films. And so I would sit in a studio for 8 hours, sometimes 12, watching people speak dialogue. So that taught me a lot about dialogue, about people's emotions, because there I was watching them and having to work with the actors who were putting their voices on these foreign actors, these Italian actors. And so I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from having to travel and adapt. I'm always adapting. I came in 1980. I had to adapt again, although I had gone to college here and to high school here. Then I'd lived 17 years in Italy in the film business, and then coming here and starting again and trying to find a job. Didn't have a lot of money, and you learn about people. You listen. I've always listened. I've always had to listen to place myself with people. So that's why I listen to my characters. It's the same thing.
They're going to throw us out of here pretty soon, but I want to ask a couple more questions. One is if there are writers in in the in the Zoom room here, what is the one piece of advice you would give to writers?
Don't censor yourself. Do not censor yourself. People get scared about, they say, oh, it's not any good, let me throw it out. And I say, go with your feelings, go with your thoughts. No one has to see it yet. Just don't stop yourself. Just let it come out. Relax. No one has to see it. Do not say, oh, this isn't any good. You don't know. Maybe the first time it isn't any good. Maybe the second time it isn't any good. Maybe the third time it is. But if you feel, and if you've got a story or an emotion, be it nonfiction or fiction, whatever your story is, let it out. Don't censor yourself. That's it.
Very nice. I like that one. I like that one very much. Okay, and the next question is, what books do you recommend? What are you reading? What are you liking? What do you want to suggest to people? Because these people are all in quarantine also, so they're a captive audience. They will go out and buy books.
Well, first of all, and I don't say it because SJ is I don't, because if I didn't like her writing, I would pretend and come up with something else. But I'm reading her Shanghai Moon, and I have absolutely fallen in love with both the characters of Lydia Chin, who reminds me very much of SJ, because she's just full of pizzazz, and her partner, Bill Smith. And also, again, I just bought a book from a Soho Press big honcho, which is Juliet Graham's, the 7 or 8 deaths of Stella Fortuna, which I can't wait to read the minute I finish S.J. Roseanne's book. Another woman mystery writer that I really enjoy, not so much her plots as her ambiance, is Louise Penny.
Oh yeah,
you've read Louise Penny, yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes her plots I don't quite follow, but the fact that she stays, I guess I like being always in the same place.
Well,
I didn't have that good luck of doing that in my life. So I like it when the people stay in the same place.
But it's a similar thing to what you're doing in Chianti. Her characters, it's one village.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
Three Pines. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, also Chinatown is one village.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, Lydia Chin's home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This
and
is,
then you learn about things about. I mean, I love Chinatown, but I didn't certain expressions I didn't know. So I'm having a ball reading it. I really am.
Good. All right. Well, I'm going to do a plug right now. This is my newest book. Can you see it? Paper Sun, which is no longer available in the hard edition. They're all gone. The paperback will be out soon, but it's on audio. And I understand that the audio, that the reader is great. I haven't listened, but that's what I hear.
Yeah, I have mine as an Audible, and I won't listen either.
Yeah, you can't, because it's not the voices in your head.
No, exactly.
Especially you actually hear the voices. I don't quite, but every audio I've listened to.
Is Paper Son of Lydia and Bill?
It's Lydia. Lydia goes to Mississippi.
Okay.
And of course Bill goes with her. And the cat on my lap, for anybody who just
Bella.
The cat who just joined us is Bella. Very aggressive little thing, named after therefore Bella Abzug. So I know most of you know who that is. And
we're all the right age.
Yeah. And okay, so I think that is going to be it soon. If any of you folks have another question.
Well, we didn't thank someone who needs a big thank you, which is Nicola, who owns I Am Books.
Yes, I Am Books. Thank you, I Am Books.
Because it was very sweet that they decided to, take, if anyone wants the book, do you do it through I Am Books, which is an independent bookstore. It also has Italian books in Italian. I just ordered one from them.
And the link is by the side in the chat gizmo there.
So thank you, Nicola.
Well, I hold Bella up. I hold Bella up so you can see her properly. She won't like it, but I will. This is Bella.
Hi, Bella. Ciao, Bella.
Chow. Oh, see, no, no, she's crabby. Um,
What?
she,
She's crabby.
well, she doesn't like to be picked up like that. You know,
Okay.
she
Oh,
will jump up
well,
when she
she's a
wants it.
cat.
So
See, if
now I
she
get,
were a dog, you
yeah,
could
now
pick
I
her
get the
up, and
tail.
the dog
Now,
would love to be on screen.
yeah, now I
Okay,
get the
next.
tail. But
Categorize her as a one wag kind of cat, SJ?
Yeah,
yeah, no, she's a multi-wag kind of cat. But
but we do keep seeing her tail.
yeah, the tail. But the tail means, now you disturbed me. I was comfortable, and now, I have to move around, and I have to get comfortable again, and I find this very obnoxious of you. So but she likes it when I do Zoom things because I'm talking, so she comes to see who I'm talking to,
Yeah.
and then there's never anybody here.
Yeah.
She finds it
Oh,
very,
but there are lots of people.
yeah, but she can't hear.
Thank you so much for coming, by the way, and joining.
Yes,
That was
thank you
lovely of
all.
you.
Thank you all for being here. This was great. I guess really there are no other questions. I mean, there were a couple of questions we didn't get to, but
Yeah, they want us
yes,
out off.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to kick us off at 7, so we want to say goodbye.
Yes.
And this was really excellent despite those loons.
Thank you, and thank you, SJ, for
Oh, well, and thank you
interviewing me.
for
That was
writing.
lovely.
Thank you for writing such a terrific book, which will now have follow-ups. And those of you in Italy, the only one I know is in Italy right now is Ruth and dog Shimo, um, and but the rest of
Lucky
you,
Ruth.
yeah. And Victoria, you're still here. Victoria is Italian anyway, so and all the rest of
I
you,
mean, I have to put my glasses to see her last name.
yeah,
Ah, sí,
Carlson
Casaregola. How do you pronounce it in America? Oh, I can't hear you because you've got
Yeah.
Casaregola. Casaregola.
Casaregola.
Casaregola.
Everyone, before you leave tonight, I just want to say thank you all for joining.
Oh, Liz. Hi, Liz.
We had an adventure and you all tolerated it, and I'm so grateful. I also want to put in a special plug for Paper Moon because SJ has been a very generous host tonight, but Paper Moon is about a hidden piece of US history about a Chinese American community in Mississippi. It is an award-winning book. You should definitely check it out. And now you can get a Paper Moon. So yeah, there you go. Definitely. And of course, please, please, please make sure that you in Chianti because it is the perfect thing that you need this summer while we're all in lockdown.
Lots of food, lots of food.
And wine. We didn't even get to the wine. I was going to ask about wine.
My
wine
husband
making.
loves Italian wine. He's an expert.
Do you have a bottle to show people here?
No, and I was supposed to. I was asked to bring, and I asked my husband to remind me, and of course he did not.
People can go out and find their own Tuscan wines. It's an adventure, Tuscan wine. So you can do that at your local wine store and drink your way through the rest of the quarantine.
Some people have.
And some people have been doing that for 6 months. So
Yeah.
And we will see you in real life when the lights go on again all over the world, which will be, not that long. Just, trust Dr. Fauci and
Next year, I think next summer. I've decided it'll be next summer.
It will be next summer, and I will be back in a CC teaching next summer. If any of you want to come study with me for 2 weeks at a CC, we will be there. artworkshopintl.com. .com, and or you just write to me and I'll give you the link. So
and everyone, please stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe, stay well, wear your masks, and and vote. Get out and vote.
Oh yes.
And
the right way.
And thank you. Grazie, arrivederci.
Grazie, arrivederci. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, grazie.
Ciao, ciao. Are we still recording? We're still on?